Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Yud Amud Beis, 5 lines from the top. Our Mishnah told us that if a person has a mavui that is wider than Eser Amos Yema'et. The Gemara tells us what happens when you have a 20 Amos wide type of mavui. The entranceway is 20 Amos wide. What is the Eitzah to Mema'et? The Gemara explains that if you take a pas that is Asar Tfachim high, and it's Arba Amos deep, and you put it exactly in the middle of the entranceway, essentially what you did is you made a mechitza of a mavui, and thereby you separated the mavois into 2 different mavos. The mavui on one side, of course, needs a lechi on that side. If you want a metaltil on the other side, you have to put a lechi on the other side. The Gemara says, what happens if you have a mavui with the entranceway of 15 amos? There, Rabbi Yehuda says, then marchik 2 amos, take a space of 2 amos, and then make a pas of 3 amos, whereby the pas would be then a closed space, which is greater than the open space. It's omed, that is greater than that which is parutz. It's omed is greater than the parutz. Over here, it's 5 amos. You're left with 10 amos as your entranceway, and that's a tikkun. Says the Gemara to challenge Rabbi Yehuda's way of being mesake in this mavui, and ask the Gemara, Va'amai, why didn't he use a different method? Yase pas amo umechza, v'yarchik shtei amos, v'yase pas amo umechza. Why didn't he say that you should make a pas of 1.5 amma adjacent to the wall of the mavui, then skip 2 amos, and then make another pas of an amma and a chetzi, whereby, again, you have the 5 amos in totality. You have oime meruba ala parutz, leaving with only an eser amos entranceway. And thereby, it'll be preferable for the people who are in the mavui because it'll be less of a disturbance. After all, you have now a situation where the mavui is closed first with an amma vechetzi adjacent to the mavui wall. Says the Gemara, it must be that that's not a possibility because shmamina oimed meruba al haparut mishtei ruchos loyhave oimed. That it must be that if you have to then combine the 2 closed spaces, in this case 1.5 amos and 1.5 amos, which is of course a total of 3, to make it greater than the open space, which is 2, that's not valid. It must be that you have to have each individual closed space greater than the open space. And in this case, it's only 1.5 amos of a closed space versus the 2 amos that is open. The Gemara says, no, la'olam eimaloch have omid. Really, we'll say that indeed is also considered to be oimed. Even if you have the combination of the 2 closed spaces, although the individual is not bigger than the closed space, but the combination, that's sufficient. The shiny hoch, the reason why over here, though, it's not a valid suggestion is because the osi avira dahai gisa, the avira dahai gisa umevatale. Because on the one side of the 1.5 amos is the space of 2 amos. On the other side of the 1.5 amos is the larger Pesach of Yud Amos. So that's going to be mevatel, the closed space of just 1.5 amma. Says the Gemara, another suggestion. V'yase pas amma v'yarchik amma. V'yase pas amma v'yarchik amma. V'yase pas amma. Make 1 amma that is going to be adjacent to the mavui wall. Make a space of an amma. Another then pas amma. Another space, another pas amma. So in totality, you have 3 closed spaces of 1 amma. That is going to be greater than the 2 open spaces of 2 amos. Together, it's 5 amos. Again, leaving the eser amos as your Pesach. So why didn't he suggest that? Says the Gemara must be shmamina oimed kiparutz osur. If you have the space that is closed, that is equal to the space that is open, in this case 1 amos which is closed versus the 1 amma that is open, that's not sufficient. It has to be greater than the space that is closed. And that's why it's not a possibility. Says the Gemara, no, we could even say that la'olam eimoloch mutter, that even oimed keparutz, when it's equal, the closed space to the open space, is also valid. The shiny hacha, but why over here is it not going to be a good suggestion? Because hacha da asa avira da hagisa mevatele. Like we said before, you'll have on one side 1 amma of open space, on the other side you'll have the open space of Eser Amos, and that will mevatel the closed space of 1 amma. So that's not a possibility either. Ask the Gemara with a third possibility. V'yarchik amma, v'yase pas amma, umechza. V'yarchik amma, v'yasa pas amma, umechza. So distance 1 amma from the wall of the mavui, then make a pas of an amma v'chetzi, and then make another distance of 1 space of an amma, and then another pas amma v'chetzi. So again, you have the 5 amos in its entirety, whereby you're left with Yud Amos as your Pesach. So it should be a valid type of way to Mesaking. Now over here, we're not going to say that the 1.5 Amos is going to be bottled, because it has 1 amma on one side that is open and the 10 amos on the other side, because here the 1.5 amos that is closed is greater than the 1 amma space on the other side. So it's not going to mevatel that. Says the Gemara, en hochenami. True, you could have said such a suggestion. The kuli haylo atrichu rabban, only the rabban did not run a matriach Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore his suggestion was satisfactory to make 2 amos from a space from the walls of the mavui, and then close it with a 3 amma pas. Ask the Gemara, v'leichush dilma shavik pischa rabbo va'ayil bepischa zuto. Let us be concerned that the people in the mavui will abandon the open space of Yud Amos, which is its entranceway, and instead use a small open space, and thereby it'll make the mavui invalid, because that makes the lechi going to be invalid, since they're using the other opening as opposed to the main Pesach. Says the Gemara, that's not a concern, because Omar Rav Ado Bar Masna Chazake Ein Adam Meniach Pesach Godol V'Nichnas V'Pesach Koton. A person, we have a chazaka, does not abandon the large opening for the small opening. Ask the Gemara, Umay Shnomed Rabbi Ami Rabbi Asi, if so, why on Daf Hey Amud Aleph when Rabbi Ami Rabbi Asi say when you have a mavui that has a pirza towards the head of the mavui's wall that is going to be 3 tvachim or more, then even though there's going to be a space of Eser Amos, which normally is not going to then be a problem in terms of the destroying the validity of the wall. But over here we say that it's a problem, that if there's going to be more than 3 tfachim from the edge of the wall, then even up to Eser Amos is going to then invalidate the mavui. Why is that so? Over here we're not concerned. We say that over here we will go through then the main entrance. Over there, however, we're concerned that they're going to go through the side. What's the difference? Ask the Gemara. Answers the Gemara, Hasam kabimayet bihilucha, hocha loikimayet bihilucha. The difference is because over there in the case of Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, there, when they're going to go through the side, it'll be a shortcut, whereby they'll use that shortcut. So Chazal were concerned and therefore invalidated such a situation if the breach is going to be more than 3 tfachim from the wall of the entrance of the mavui. But over here, since it's not from the side, but rather it's from the front, there's no reason why people would abandon the main entrance to go all the way to the corner and use a small space that is on the side of the front. Says the Gemara weiter, Tnan Hasom is really a Tosefta, we're quoting, or Ha'aslo v'chalal shaloi mitztarfim b'tefach. If you have the leather of an asla, we're talking about a seat, and that or together with the halal, the space that is a gap in the middle, that if it's a shear of a tefach, then it will make an oihel. an oil has to have a tefach by tefach, and at least the minimum height of 1 tefach high. Then it can be an oil if there's a mace or part of the mace that is underneath this tefach. So the Gemara now brings the Tosefta that this combination of the leather on both sides, including the halal in the middle, will mitztarev to make a tefach. Ask the Gemara, my or ha'asla. What is the or ha'asla we're referring to? Omar Rabbe Babarchana B'yoichanon, or kisui shel beis hakisa. We're talking about a beis hakise. We're talking about a chair, a seat, a toilet seat that is portable, and this toilet seat had leather on both sides with a halal, a space in the middle, a gap in the middle. So therefore, we're saying over here the combination of that or together on both sides with the gap in the middle, the halal, if it makes a tefach, then it will be then making an oil also if there were to be a mace underneath it. Ki also, so Vikama asked the Gemara, how much can the space in the middle be, the halal, that it becomes tafil and will still be mitztarev with the or on both sides of this seat? Kiyasa Rav Dimi Omar etzba'ayim mikan ve'etzba'ayim mikan ve'etzba'ayim revach be'emtza. Rav Dimi says if the or is 2 etzbos on one side, 2 etzbos on the other, and you have the halal of 2 etzbos in the middle, that's going to be the tefach that we're talking about. Kiyasa Ravin Omar etzba umechza mikan ve'etzba mechza mikan ve'etzba revach be'emtza. Ravin says that's 1.5 etzba on each side with 1 etzba in the middle. Omar le'abaye le'Rav Dimi mi peligisu. Abaye says to Rav Dimi, are you arguing? It appears that you are. After all, you, Rav Dimi, have a totality of 2 on each side with 2 in the middle of 6 to make the tefach. Yet, Ravin says it's 1.5 on each side with 1 tefach in the middle, a totality of 4. So it appears that you're arguing. Omar le loy. Rav Dimi says to Abaye, there's no machlokes here. Ha berav ravasa, ha bezitrosa, v'lo paligin. In regards to the way that we're getting to the tefach is just different. In other words, Ravin says that it's 1.5 and 1.5 on each side with 1 in the middle. So he's using the gudal, the ends of the gudal, which is the middle of the big finger, the thumb rather, and that is 4 to make up a tefach, whereas I'm using the small finger to make up the size to get to the tefach, and therefore I say it's 6, 2, 2, and 2. Omar le loy pligisu. Abaye turns to Rav Dimi and he says, in truth, you are arguing. Because you're arguing about the concept that when it comes to oimim ruba ala parutz, so whether you are required to have the place that is closed, that is greater than the place that is open next to it, or if it's sufficient just to have the 2 places that are closed, in this case, to be greater than the place that is open. So therefore, you, Ravin, who say that it's 2 on each side with 2 in the middle, so you say that it's sufficient to have the 2 sides that are closed add up to be greater than the open space in the middle. Whereas Ravin, he says that's not satisfactory. You have to have this closed space that is next to the open space to be greater. And therefore, he says that 2 on each side with 2 in the middle would not be satisfactory. He has to come onto a case where it's 1.5 on each side with 1 in the middle. According to you, Rav Dimi, it would be that it's still valid if you combine the 2 sides that are going to be closed. Whereas Ravin would require that it be individually greater, the closed part, than the open part. If you're going to say that indeed Ravin is not arguing on you, Rav Dimi, then iboi le'lemeimar etzba v'shlish mikan, v'etzba v'shlish mikan, v'etzba v'shlish miravach be'emtza. Then why didn't he learn a different case? That the measurements is, if he wants to get to 4, because he's using the gudal, so then let him use the 4 and say the measurements are as follows: 1.5 on each side. Sorry, 1 1/3 on each side and 1 1/3 in the middle, and that will combine to get to the totality of 4. Rav Dimi then responds to Abai ve'elamai pliginan. We're arguing. If that's so, lididi hachi boili lemeimar. Then I should have stated a different case. Instead of a case of 2 on both sides with 2 in the middle, then I should have stated etzbo ushnei shlishim mikan ve'etzbo shnei shlishim mikan. There should be 1 2/3 on each side. Ve'etzboim v'shnei shlishim revach be'emtza. And 2 2/3 in the middle, whereby it would come out that both sides combined would be greater than the size in the middle. Dahainu, 1 2/3 would come out to be plus 1 2/3, a total of 3 1/3. That would be greater than the size in the middle of 2 2/3. And that will still come to the combination, the totality of 6. Elo i'ika lemeimar. Rather, Rav Dimi concludes, if you want to say the palginin that we're arguing, then the porutz ke'oimed palginan. Then we're arguing about a case of porutz ke'oimed, that the size that is closed must, according to one opinion, say that it has to be greater than the size that is open, whereas the other one says not. I'm of the opinion that it doesn't have to be greater, and therefore 2 on each side with 2 in the middle is sufficient. But Ravin says that would not be satisfactory. You have to have the size that's closed at least bigger than the size that is open next to it. And therefore, my case, if 2 on each side and 2 in the middle is satisfactory to me, but according to Ravin, it would not be satisfactory. Therefore, you had to come onto a case of 1.5 on each side, which is going to be greater than the one that is in the middle.